Hello, Foster.
Hello, Matt.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. So you're the mind behind the Thrive movement and the documentary that's been released this year, late last year.
Late last year, 11/11/11.
Yes,
and
that's
I'm only
the date.
I'm only one of the minds behind it because my wife was a critical part of it and probably the greatest mind involved in it.
Well, it's good. The partnerships are always stronger. So,
Absolutely.
what can you tell me about your intentions behind creating the film and the process of building this movement?
Yeah. Well, I came to the conclusion a long time ago that this world was really in trouble. And I committed my life coming out of college, actually, to figuring out what's in the way of our thriving. And I told people, I was a filmmaker already, I told people that if I found the answer to that and something that we could do about it that was useful, then I'd make a full-on film about it. I just didn't realize it would take over 40 years to find the answers to those questions. But at least here we are. And our intention was to save people time. We have been privileged to have some time to follow the questions that most people don't have the time to use, even if they were interested. And so I've always been curious ever since I was a child as to what's really going on behind the scenes. How does the world work? So I was able to follow, one thread of thought after another, and to see where all of them connected. And finally, when Kimberly and I felt like we had a sufficient understanding of what was wrong, then we kept going until we had an even clearer understanding of what we thought people could do about it that could turn the whole situation around and create a thriving world. So we set about making a film that would be a trailer for the website. Because the film you can see in a couple of hours, many people are seeing it 3, 4, 5 times, but still it's a film. The website, you can go and you can literally spend weeks or months just exploring all the information on the website. And when you're checking things out, most people get to a point where they go, okay, I'm finally seeing a whole picture, and now the question is, what can I do about it? So we've got a very substantial solutions section on the website that gives you the tools to organize in your own community, to get the information that you need in the sector issue of your choice, and then to connect with other groups worldwide who are working on similar issues. So fortunately, it seems to be working. We set out to help change the global conversation in a really creative and successful, effective way. And over 9 million people have now seen the film. About 1 million a month are seeing it now in 20 languages around the world. And we launched a solutions hub a couple of months ago, and there's already over 350 groups that have signed up from all countries all over the world to share best practices and lawsuits and petitions and artwork and flyers and all sorts of great thinking to save each other time and to become collaborative and decentralized in a whole self-creating network of networks all over the world.
Yeah, I do see that it's somewhat become a centralized hub in a lot of ways for that alternative theory and alternative information that's not often presented through mainstream media and resources. So it's good to see that it's being presented to people in a way that's accessible and allows them to make their own decisions. What is this with the movement and where it's growing and everybody collaborating and coming together, that strength of unity? Where do you see the final outcomes of this? Like where do you want to take it?
Well, we would just like to make our most effective contribution toward a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. It's really as simple as that. And fortunately, in my lifetime of research, if I had to look back on, over 40 years of research in this, if I had to boil it down to one image, one idea, one icon, it would be the torus energy pattern. This donut-shaped vortex of energy that it turns out is the fundamental pattern that sustains a healthy system at every scale, as far as we can tell, throughout the universe. And when people are aware that the universe is showing us a blueprint for how to create a sustainable system, we can take that knowledge and we can apply it into free energy devices. We can apply it into true free market economics, where voluntary exchange allows prices to find their own natural level, and where currency that is sound rises to the surface, but people are free to interact in ways that really allow everyone to prosper. And fundamentally, that same notion, when we take it to the human level, shows us that the human being is the fundamental torus at the human level, not the group. Because throughout history, we've been duped into this story that if we sacrifice individuals for the sake of the group, that it's going to turn out well. Well, you know, how's that working for us? You know, from the pharaohs through royalty, through the priesthood, to all the dictators, to communism, fascism, socialism, and now even democracy, this whole notion that a few people could get powers that other people aren't allowed to have, to come and take your money that you worked hard for, to take your property, to tell you what you can and can't do, and push you in jail or shoot you if you don't do it. That illusion has led us to the brink of destruction for all of life as we know it on planet Earth. And I think we're in the process of recognizing that the human being and the energy field around us, this fundamental wholeness that each of us is what needs to be fundamentally protected. And that's the core navigating insight for humanity, is honoring the sovereignty, the sanctity, the safety of each individual, rather than sacrificing the individual for the sake of some abstract notion called the group. Now, what I've seen is that people, when they are honored, when they're safe, when they have the opportunity to interact in free ways, that they will prosper. And that as they do, they will naturally, of course, form in families and form in communities, but they're free communities where no one is coercing others, no one is using the threat of violence to control other people. So I think we're, even though it's a very challenging transition we have in front of us, on our website we've laid out a plan for a 3-stage transition from here to there. And I think, frankly, if a significant number, if a minimum sufficient critical mass of human beings get this deeply and can act on it, then I think we can move into a thriving world beyond our imagination. And if we don't, then I think our very survival is at risk.
Yes, it's a very, very powerful notion. I mean, the world is in a state. It's in a dangerous state. And we have to care for our planet and find some equality and peace and unity between each other. And that is, I guess, where I come from. Here as a musician is trying to spread that message and empower people to think for themselves and inspire others to try and be at one with themselves and others, so that, yes, we can thrive as such. That is what we need.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because what I'm seeing, Kimberly and I have been invited, to present Thrive all over the world, but particularly we've been invited to a lot of music festivals. And this kind of surprised us at first, because I've been to a lot of music festivals and I haven't seen many films, and I haven't heard a lot of activist discussion. But what we're finding is that the people who attend the festivals, they feel such energy in their music, in their dance, in their coming together coherently with thousands of people. And they're beginning to long for taking that energy and then being able to explore directing it in really creative and effective action. And so we're being invited to come and present Thrive and do question and answer sessions and lead workshops on solutions at these just ecstatic festivals all over the world. So I personally am thrilled to see musicians and artists like yourselves who are becoming so aware of what's going on in the world and so solutions oriented that you're actually bringing the discussions up in your concerts and writing lyrics that can really help to influence people's behavior in a really positive way. Because as a musician myself, and I'm a rock drummer, but as a filmmaker and writer myself, I know the power of art can move people's soul way beyond the abstraction of just a good idea. So when the good ideas come together with a true assessment of what's going on in the world and direction and inspiration about what we can do about it, then I think we're unstoppable.
It is amazing. Thank you. It is good to hear that from somewhere across the world, is that the appreciation for that level and for what musicians are trying to do is still appreciated in that regard. For me, I think it's an amazing time and interesting for me in my own research to see the growth of people that are globally conscious and have a message about what is going on. And through music at the moment, we are finding more artists and like-minded people that share these ideals and want to see some positive change, just for people and for the world. So,
yeah.
I suppose an interesting thing it's for me. I feel like as I get up in the morning, I've got a drive. There's something there's that untangible sense that's pulling you forward. Do you share that? Where does that come from for you, if you do feel that?
Well, I absolutely do, and I feel very blessed in my life. Frankly, I can't remember a day that I was bored, unless maybe somebody was keeping me from doing what my passion pulled me to do. But I've actually created a video that is on our website. I believe it's on our YouTube channel also at Thrive Movie. It's just called Purpose. And I have spent many years analyzing what purpose is, because one of my mentors, a man named Arthur Young, woke me up to the fact that a lot of people are going around saying, well, I wonder if there's any meaning or purpose to life. And he was the one who pointed out to me that there is nothing that exists except as a function of purpose. Every insect, every chair, every planet, every galaxy, every person exists as an expression of purpose itself. So I believe that every human being, first of all, is driven by very strong purpose. Every single one of us who made it into a body was the winner in a race of at least 60 million sperm. Imagine an ocean swimming race where you lined up with 60 million other people and you were the winner. That's a lot of intent. That's a strong purpose. So then the question is, okay, I got here, I got in a body, I learned the language, and now here I am, what am I here for? And the beauty of that is that no one can answer that question for anyone else. And there's no right or wrong answer. Viktor Frankl said, your purpose is not something that you create, it's something that you actually discover. And it reveals itself in the process of your looking into yourself in your life. And some people, I led workshops for years having to do with purpose, and I would ask people, well, what do you think your purpose is? And some people would say, well, it's to protect life, but other people would say it's to seek spiritually, and others would, it's to integrate, or it's to perform, or whatever. And over the years, I collected all of these answers. And then with some associates, we gathered them to see if there was some way that they naturally organized themselves. And sure enough, they organized themselves into 7 groups. And those groups, basically, it starts with, the beginning is listening. Just listening inside to your own calling. And then that creates a seeking. And then that creates a finding something. And then experimenting with it and learning in the process. And then integrating it, mastering it. And then making it fully a part of yourself. And then finally, the natural inclination to share it with others. So what happens is that turns out to be a natural toroidal flow, just like this picture on the wall behind me. And so it turns out that different people noticing different aspects of this dynamic are looking at a facet of the torus. But really all of those different aspects are a part of the toroidal dynamic. And the toroidal dynamic that we're made of and embedded in is in fact the process of purpose itself. And it always has a center, it always has a spin axis, it always has a balance of the energy in and energy out, and it has a direction to it. So for me, that was an absolute revelation, to realize that I might be focusing on different aspects of my purpose at different times in life. You know, when I was younger, or when I had kids, or when I was teaching, or when I was more in a spiritual seeking mode. But all of those are simply facets of a jewel, or aspects of the torus itself, so that we are not only driven by purpose, we are actually purpose itself.
Yes. Well, that's something that's been a growing thing for myself as a person, is the finding of that purpose you get out of the age now. You know, I'm 20 now, but just graduating out of school, and yeah, you do sit there for the first time and go, what do I do next? So for me, I spent a bit of time doing my research and just trying to get a handle on life. And there was probably a point in our time when the band went down to Sydney. We watched a documentary about youth homelessness, and that was deeply moving. Weren't really aware that those things were going on. I suppose we'd been isolated from that information. But when I did see it, it was enough to make us want to go down there and do something about it. And ever since then, it's been an ongoing thing where these constant wrongs, these things that shouldn't be happening in society, I've been driving to look for change, to try and see what we can do, how we can contribute. So, you know, we've come to this point here where I want to start reaching out, communicating with people like yourself, and to try and bring awareness from our level to help people. And I'd love to know, from your perspective, what do you think it is that the arts and the music community can continue to help doing to contribute towards change, positive change?
Well, let me tell you a quick story that has to do with homeless youth. Because my wife, Kimberly, the co-creator of Thrive, that was her specialty before we collaborated on Thrive. She spent 8 years creating and running the most successful independent shelter for homeless teens in the whole United States. And now it's been replicated in cities across the country. And when she finished that, after working on it for 8 years, she'd had a tremendous impact, and the work continues to have a very positive impact. And she paused to notice that the number of homeless teens across the country had increased during those 8 years by over 25%.
Yeah.
So she had to honestly sit back and go, okay, this is not enough. I'm missing something in this picture, because it's getting worse instead of better, no matter how effective my work is. And so that's one of the reasons she was so motivated to work with me on Thrive and get deeper to the roots of the problem. Because unless we get to the fundamental money scam that is allowing a handful of people to gather most of the wealth and power on the planet into their own hands, and then to try to use that power to control or even eliminate most of the people on the planet, until we get to the root of that and expose and get rid of that scam, most of the other things won't have a chance to be really successful. It's like playing Monopoly with someone, except they get to create money anytime they want. They're going to end up buying you out no matter how well you play the game. So I think that what's happening is that people are starting to wake up to the fundamental injustices that we have been duped about for a long time. And I think that it's the arts which can not only reach out to many more people that are just going to be attracted to a conceptual conversation. You know, you can reach so many people with music and with painting and with dance and with filmmaking and all the different arts that there are. You can reach so many people, but also when you reach them, the information can go deeper than it would on its own. And the information needs to get into the soul. It needs to get into the emotional body, or else it's just going to be scary, or, you know, something that this would be good to do something about, but it's not necessarily going to be something that really moves people into action. And you know, when we finished the rough cut of our documentary Thrive, it didn't have the music in it yet. And several people told me, well, it said, this is a great film, it's 49% of the way there. And I said, what do you mean? We've worked on this thing for 7 years already, and you know, all it needs is the music. And they said, yes, exactly. And that's the other 51%. So I thought, well, okay, well, those just some artists, you know, tooting their own horn. Then we put the music in. You know, we had these fabulous artists, Gary Malk and Dan Alvarez from Mosaic, and they put together this score. They did close to 100 cues in 2.5 months, and really matched them to the emotion that were necessary in different parts of the film and so forth. And when we started showing people the film with that music in it, it was easily twice as powerful as it had been before. And that simply confirmed for me, okay, this is the power of art to go beyond our rational minds and actually really touch our hearts and souls and move us to action.
Hello, Pastor, it's Lach here.
Hello, LJ, welcome.
How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great. Thanks for making the drive. How are you doing?
No, I'm doing a lot better now than I'm here.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the picture of the three of you. Which one are you? Are you the one in the center with the hat?
Yeah, that'd be me. Yep.
All right. Okay. Good.
All right.
Well, I want to make sure that we talk about anything that you want to talk about. But Matt had just asked me a question which I'll address while you gather your thoughts about what you'd like to talk about, and then we'll go into that.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So Matt had asked me to talk a little bit about the reception of the film, and I'm thrilled to say that it's way exceeded our expectations and hopes. And it's about 10 months now. In fact, day after tomorrow it will be 10 months. The film's been seen by close to 9 million people now. It's in 20 languages all over the world, and there have been probably over 15,000 independent screenings that people are holding in local theaters, and they're inviting their friends into their homes and so forth. So people seem to be loving the film. There's controversy around the film, which we were told to expect, and we certainly knew from our topics that there would be, that almost everyone would have some part that they didn't understand or wished we had left out or seemed like too much or something like that. But that wasn't our job. We weren't out to please people. We were out to tell as comprehensive a picture about the truth of what's really going on in the world as we could. And we're really glad that we did. We wouldn't change a single thing in the film. And so many people have said to us, they've expressed their gratitude for us not holding back and for us making it okay to talk about so many subjects which have been taboo, from ETs to conspiracy to free energy to banking scams to solutions. To liberty itself has been a controversial topic, believe it or not. And so the controversy, first of all, since we didn't make a political film, and so many people think in a political frame, when the film came out in this country, at first we were attacked by the right for having left-wing people in the film. And then we had conversations with them. They finally started to understand what the film was really about. Then we were attacked by the left for having so-called right-wing people in the film. So then we started interacting with them, and people are starting to get it, that we didn't have people in the film because of their political affiliation or beliefs, but because they had expertise in a particular area that we could rely on. And we were making a film oriented towards solutions, but not political solutions. Are you going to have are we going to believe that this sock puppet or that sock puppet, who are all working for the corporations and the bankers anyway, which one are we supposed to believe is going to fix this problem when, for the most part, they've created the problems in the first place? So finally, people are starting to get it, that we made, in a sense, a trans-political film. And so you see a certain amount of controversy on the internet, and there are, a number of debunking sites which we were also told to expect, none of the debunkers are willing to have their names or an honest picture of who they are. So I think in most cases, those people are getting paid, usually by government agencies, to try to undermine the credibility of Thrive because of what we're exposing. And if you look at, at Thrive on YouTube and just look at the likes, last time I checked, it was 99.9% likes. So it's been so encouraging for us to realize, first of all, that we were right, that people are really smart. Because we did not dumb down this movie. We put in a lot of information, and it moves fast, and it assumes that people are intelligent and that they want to know the truth. And that's what we, everywhere we go, people just pack the theaters and say thank you for treating as the intelligent people that we are and offering solutions. So we've been touring mostly in this country, and we're coming to Australia right at the beginning of November. And we're really excited about this. The reason we're coming to Australia is because after the US and Japan, Australia has been the next most enthusiastic country in the world in its reception to Thrive. So we're coming to not to show Thrive. We're encouraging everybody, go see the movie before you come, so that we can spend an entire day with solutionaries, with local people who are doing great solutions, and that we can share some aspects of Thrive, give an update, but spend most of the day really brainstorming what's really going on in current events, and what are the tools and the strategies that we can that we're employing through the Thrive Solutions Hub, but also that we can brainstorm together that are going to be really effective in linking these networks worldwide and getting this turn, this whole new phase of evolution to happen. So we're going to be in Melbourne on November 3rd, that's a Saturday, all day. Then we go to Sydney the next weekend on November 10th for the full day, and then in Gold Coast on November 17th. So anyone out there who is not signed up already, if you're interested in getting together with other solutionaries who really want to know what's going on and really want to take effective action and learn how to empower each other, it's going to be a deep day, because we're not just going to tell people what to do. We're going to be looking deep inside ourselves to identify what our passions are, what our strengths are, looking at strategies of how we can connect and amplify our efforts in local communities, and also linking up with other communities around the world. And we're going to look to see what's working and what's not working in people's activism, and really brainstorm and share the benefit of each one of our experience, and just optimize the effectiveness of everyone who's there. So if you're interested at all, I recommend you sign up, because I was just talking with Adam Davis before this call. He's the promoter from Positive Path, and he said that the venues are almost full already, and we've still got almost a month to go. So it looks like they will sell out. So I encourage people, if you want to come, sign up, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you. And if you are already working on solutions that are being successful, then go to our Solutions Summit website at www.thesolutionssummit.info. And look over the roster there of who's going to be there. And then if you're already working on some cool stuff, sign up on, there's a section called Seeking Local Solutionaries. And people are applying to have 10 or 15 minutes to get up and describe their project to the people who are watching, and to also get that recorded for when we when we archive these films and get it out on the internet. So one more thing I'll say about that is that I will be there, and Adam will be there. My wife Kimberly will be Skyping in. Nassim Haramein from the Hunger Project will be Skyping in from Hawaii. If you haven't seen Thrive already, he's featured in there. He and I worked together for 6 years, and of all the scientists I've ever worked with, and I've worked with over 150 over the course of the last several decades, he's the most advanced one I've ever come across. He's really completing Einstein's work, and not only as an inventor, but completing the unified field theory, because he's really including consciousness and applying this whole awareness of the fundamental patterning in a way that no physicist has before. Jamie Janover will be there in person from the Resonance Project, and Alpha Marina Orpin from Organic Farm Shares will also be there. I just found out a couple of days ago that Max Egan will be there, who, if you don't know him, he's an amazing radio host and just investigator and filmmaker into what's really going on in the world. So I've never met him. I'm really excited. I've been following his work for years, and he's going to come and be there, and a bunch of others as well that we'll keep you updated on that website I gave you.
Well, that's excellent. That sounds like there's going to be a pretty large list of names to hear from.
Yeah.
For the Australians that are watching, what do you think they can expect in terms of the solutions that you are bringing forward under, say, what aspects for people here?
Well, this is an exciting part to me because we've got a solutions model that includes all solutions if they're based on integrity and freedom. Because we have what we call our 12 around 1 model. It's 13 sectors like we have in the film and on our site. Whatever you're involved in, it would be in at least one of those categories. And we use this model in Northern California to stop this covert toxic pesticide aerial spray that George Bush Jr. tried to do on 11 million people in Northern California back in 2007. They just literally, these planes started droning overhead and dropping these toxins on us, and they wouldn't even tell us what was in it. It was supposed to be to get rid of this little moth that actually was doing no damage at all. So we got active. People were just kind of running around scared, and Kimberly suggested, why don't we get together the lead activists and teach them this sector model. So we got 30 people together in our living room, taught them this model, had a town hall meeting the next day in Santa Cruz, the next night, where we had 12 tables. We had speakers, about 300 people showed up. We informed people what we thought was going on, and then had people sign up for one of the sectors. So the lawyers went to the justice table, the scientists to the science table, the media people went to the media table, and the artists went to the arts table, and spiritual teachers went to the spirituality table, and basically signed up. So that what happened was people didn't have to go out and try to solve the whole problem themselves. Organized into this toroidal communication where everybody was included, but we had very efficient committees representing each one of these groups on a weekly basis. And to make a long story short, we ended up using this strategy to stop what was a $1 billion covert program. With about $40,000, we stopped this entire program in about 6 months. And through a Freedom of Information Act request, we got an internal email from the people who were perpetrating this, where they said, we had expected some resistance from Santa Cruz, we just didn't know it would be that well organized. So this is the kind of model that really worked effectively for us in California, but it's easily scalable to the entire world. So any problem, whether it's chemtrails or fluoride or the mortgage scam or whatever problem it is in health and environment and energy, whatever, you can work on multiple issues or you can work on individual issues. But what happens is people with different skills in a community are in touch with each other. So if I've got a pesticide issue in my area, I can access the scientists to find out what's going on, and the media people to create a campaign, and the art people to create the flyers, and on, so that we end up in a finely honed collaborative effort that allows people to relax into doing their own purpose, their own passion, their own calling, while being in touch with people whose natural calling is to handle all the rest of the 12 sectors. So it becomes this wonderful kind of whole system community activity that is, by the way, decentralized and once again unstoppable in its effectiveness, because you can't just get rid of some leader or make fun of some particular movement, because it really is the people rising up in ways that are aligned with the natural patterning of nature.
Yes, and it's interesting you say that about the people rising up. Not a lot of it is presented through mainstream media. You do hear about it, but I do watch a bit of both. So
yes.
through alternative media, you do see a large degree of people rising up as such. I mean, for a start, through the Occupy movements in America, but that's the beginning now, from where it's continued to extend into places like Greece and Spain, and
Yes.
and it continues. So, what would you say would be a process from here? I mean, these people are growing, and there's this hostility that's being returned, and you think about where it goes next. Where do you see the projections from here?
Well, yeah, I love that question. That's one of my favorite things to think about. And in fact, we are working with the Occupy movement. They love our Solutions Hub, and it's being helpful to them in organizing the multitude of issues that they're addressing. And I'm also in conversation now with Peter Joseph from the Zeitgeist movement, and there's another movement called the Shift movement, and they're in touch with us also, because we're exploring ways to network various groups, already existing groups, without them having to agree completely on ideology or completely agree on what issues to tackle. And I think this is one of the most important breakthroughs on the planet right now, is we're creating this network of networks where people who are coordinating their networks have spent a lot of time and energy building their lists and building their trust. That's what an email list really is. Just like the people who follow your band, they love and trust you because they like what you're doing, and your behavior has been consistent. So they want to, hear what you're up to. So if you get information from us that you wouldn't want to pass on for some reason, then you wouldn't need to. So you could gate that information. But key events and key thinking and key opportunities can be spread to very large networks, literally hundreds of millions of people at a time soon. And then the coordinators of each group can decide, okay, is this the right for my list or not? But at least they got the information. And this is going to allow large groups to collaborate with each other without getting caught so much in this sort of divide and conquer. I'm not 100% on the same page with you, so therefore I'm not going to pay any attention to you, that it has killed so much effective action in the past. So for anybody listening to this who hasn't been to the Thrive website, go to thrivemovement.com and then go to the Solutions Hub. And you'll see on there that we've got groups signing up from all over the world. And they can put in their profile saying which issues they're working on. And that way, if you want to join a group, if you want to start a group, you can see what's going on. And then you can find other groups that are working on the same issues as you, and get in touch with them, and then share best practices and learn from each other and save each other time. So this is the sort of activity that we're making an offering into. And the key for me is that there's no single charismatic leader. There's no group that everybody has to join. There's nobody telling anyone else what they have to do. It's decentralized. It's based on principles of integrity and freedom rather than on political or religious affiliations. And that way, it's absolutely universal. And it's based on morality rather than on money or on political allegiances. And as long as, for people signing up on our hub, we only ask two things. One, that if you're going to use the sector model, that you use the same sector names, so that because that way we can coordinate with other sectors all over the world. Whereas if everybody's using different names, you can't coordinate the global activity. And the second one is that your solutions can't involve the intentional violation of anyone else. So those are the only two requirements that we have, and we're looking to just provide a useful hub for solutions activities for any issues all over the world.
Hey Foster, considering that we're thinking in a long-term scale here with the whole movement, and there are uprisings happening and everything like that, how do you think the next generation is going to play a role in all of this?
Well, first of all, just talking with people like yourselves who, have awarenesses in your 20s that I didn't have for 40 years after that is really encouraging. And that's number one. I'm watching evolution happen in front of my eyes you guys have the opportunity to be so informed with the internet and just with the kind of integrity that I see coming up in this next generation. You know, I mean, to put it bluntly, your generation has really gotten screwed by this scam really worse than anyone, because you're inheriting the debt of the entire world. And you're inheriting all, you know, all this pesticides and chemtrails and all this stuff. I mean, I am embarrassed and ashamed of what your generation is waking up to has happened that is not your fault at all. But on the other hand, okay, that's where we're at. So fortunately, we have the internet, and we've got a ton of people all over the world who are committed to turning this around. So what I'm seeing in your generation is, number one, a ton of integrity, just more authenticity than I've ever seen in any generation. I think that's part of evolution. Number two, you really know how to use electronic technology. You know, whether it's you know, for your guitar or on the internet. So you can use these tools and amplify your voice and the emotional carrier of the information just beyond what the rest of us used to be able to even dream about. And then finally, what I see is that they, you know, with my own children and my grandchildren and the young people that I have been working with in Thrive and that I'm meeting all over the world as I travel, there is a sense of being a global citizen. You know, a human being living on a planet with other species where we're all in this together, rather than, well, you know, I'm fundamentally an American, or I'm an Australian, or I'm you know, a black person or a white person or an Asian person or whatever. That is, though some of those distinctions can be useful in certain realms, they're not fundamental. And even though we've been indoctrinated to think that way so much. So what I'm seeing is a generation of global citizens who know their globe is in trouble, but are also waking up to that there are really effective things that can be done about it. And you don't have to suffer you know, needlessly in the process of doing it. You don't have to do it all by yourself, and you don't have to burn yourself out in the process. So you can actually be thriving while we're all turning this thing around.
Also, just from a musician's point of view as well, how is it that, you know, music and or arts really impact against, you know, what we're trying to talk about here?
Well, I was talking a little earlier with Matt about just the power of arts themselves to bypass the critical mind. It doesn't mean bypassing your critical thinking, but it's bypassing the sort of stuckness in old paradigms that virtually all of us get caught in sometimes, where you can get the feeling, the experience, literally the vibration of a new way of being, and then start processing it in your mind. You know, I've been listening to some of your songs. In particular, I've been enjoying the Everyone Has a Story and I Don't Believe It. And the way that you're backing up power of the music with lyrics that are important, you know, that are true, and that can actually make a difference these days, I think is a perfect example of how, when we combine our art with our intellect, then it becomes the work of the soul and has a power that is inexplicable. But before we go any further, you know, I'd love to have this be a conversation and not just an interview. So I'd like to hear a little bit from either of you who would like to offer what you see that your art can do and that your generation can do as well. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, you know, I enjoy, you know, singing about a decent message, and, you know, and I love hearing that people actually follow and listen to what we actually try to say. So, you know, I think that from playing in a band, it's not hard to do to really express what you want to say. So, you know, while we have the chance to do it, we want to have a full up front, you know, punch at it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's taken us quite some time as a band and as musicians to work together and develop our own selves and get to this point. I think we're ready to say what we've been trying to say for a long time. Where we can also see as just people of the earth what happens and where we can fit into that equation, where we can help to support those who are in need and how we can help to reshape things for the future, is try and take some value in that journey.
One of the things that I appreciate about your music is that you sing the lyrics in a way that people, if they want to, can actually understand them.
Yeah.
It's been one of my gripes with a lot of music, is for a long time, with a lot of styles of music, it was uncool to have intelligible lyrics. So if someone was just, kind of standing up there ranting or yelling about something, but nobody knew what, they just knew that they were angry or something.
Yeah.
As you're putting this music out, are you getting feedback that people really are listening to, or even, learning the lyrics in such a way that the meaning is really getting in?
To a certain extent, yes. And other times it is a lot slow on that side of the things. A lot of people who are just enthusiasts of music and not the whole message or the whole picture, if you know what I mean. So we definitely get good responses from both sides of those, and we're both happy to receive any type of response, whether it's critical or positive.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
and the other opportunity that you guys have is between songs. When you're playing a set and the audience is there, and if they're really into you, I've noticed the audiences care a lot, what you have to say. So it's a unique opportunity.
Yeah, it does give us a chance to voice our message and our opinions on things, and I think that's been the growth pattern for the band, is to slowly see people coming around to the message. That's not been something that people picked up straight away. I think that's not something people pick up straight away at the moment. But these days there is a pattern at the moment. We're getting people coming to us saying, it's great to see that you guys are caring about things and globally aware, and that's spreading at the moment quicker than it has before. But that's probably because we're starting to do this sort of thing and bring it out to people beyond more than just the lyrics, because people will sing along, but I don't know how many people look that deeply to try and find those messages anymore. And I think that's something that I'd like to see change, would be to unite more people that have got something to say, that are really trying to comment on the way the world is, on the status quo and on the environment, or just something towards positive change, and see that sort of transcend beyond genre boundaries and let people understand that singing about something important, and see that as something of a power rather than constricted by the restrictions of genre and style.
That's one thing that we find that it's hard to really see how the music industry works, is that they do play bands in genre audience, concert groups, and that's something that we try to be open-minded about, is that we think of it as a music rather than a genre.
Right.
As a
nowadays,
complete
too, you can, with your internet sites, and if you want to do blogs and that type of thing, you can have a whole level of interaction with your fan base that didn't used to be possible.
Yeah, totally. And that's something we're still becoming a little bit open to. Yeah,
it's a learning process. We're probably not as savvy as all, but we are on the road to that, I'd say. This has all been a very interesting experience for us over the last few months, releasing singles in the way we have, and communicating with people and starting to see those trends pick up. So it's an exciting time for us as a band.
So what was it about Thrive that intrigued you in such a way that we're having this conversation now?
Well, for us, I watched the movie,
when it came out, when it came out?
Yeah, pretty early on.
Online.
Yeah. No, I think I rented it out initially and sat and watched it, and I thought back then, because I'd been watching a lot of the other different kind of documentaries that are out across the net, on alternative information, and was pretty interested in it, wanted to get to the bottom of it. I think just wanted to try and find the truths of it and not get too mixed up in all the misinformation. And when I come across Thrive, it was a very open way for people to receive that information, I think. So
yeah, it wasn't dark or like...
we're not focusing on the negatives.
No, it was very a positive message.
Yeah,
Yeah, great to watch.
Yeah, for us, we're looking ourselves towards the solutions as easy as it is to see how much happens. It's about trying to make those things better rather than... I think everybody can recognise the problem now. I think we can all see where it stems from, and it's about really taking action now and doing something about it.
One of the things that we've been excited about is that, like you're saying, people have responded, particularly women and young people, to the tone of Thrive with great relief and a warm reception, because even though we're dealing with information which can be overwhelming or scary, because it's very real and very threatening, some of it, Kimberly really encouraged me as director. When she was directing me as host of the film, she really encouraged me to allow the viewer to have their own emotional space, to encounter the information without me trying to fill that space with my own emotion. Because so many of the documentaries about this type of information have been angry, ranting males trying to cram it down your throat to wake you up and get you to do something.
Yeah.
And the information has been terrific, and I owe a huge debt of gratitude to many of those people. But Kimberly really taught me about, I mean, I'm a pretty soft-spoken guy anyway, you know, and I used to teach Aikido. I'm committed to nonviolence whenever possible. But I can get pretty worked up when I think of what these few people are doing, destroying billions of lives. But as I would start to get worked up into that, Kimberly as director would just keep coming back and saying, settle back into your confidence about the way out of this and allow people to have their own emotional space. And once I learned how to do that, the first time that she said, yeah, that's what I was looking for, I came off the set and half of the film crew was in tears.
Wow.
And I had just been talking about the global domination agenda, and they were moved. So I realized, okay, something just happened here. This is new to me. And I began to realize, okay, this is the feminine power. This isn't, okay, this is, you know, the sky's falling and you got to do something about this right away or else. It's like, no, it's actually sharing your own experience of it and inviting people into it together. And so women all over the world have been saying, thank you, finally a version of this information that I can not only sit through, but that I want to share with my friends and my teenage kids and that type of stuff. So I'm proud of Kimberly for being able to facilitate that kind of breakthrough.
No, that's excellent. That's I think that was why it was the way it was for us. It seemed like a great way to show people that information without becoming a jar to it straight away, because it is presented openly and allows people the freedom and the space to feel how they want to feel about it and make up their own decisions, which is the most important part.
Yes, great. Well, let me encourage the people who are viewing this. If you haven't seen Thrive already, we've released it for free, and you can go to thrivemovement.com, and just the very first page that comes up, you just click on it, and you begin the magic carpet ride. Fasten your seatbelts because it's a ride. For those of you who have seen it, we encourage you to use the website, because we spent years loading up that website with all the information that you can that you need in order to get deep enough in any topic to feel like, okay, I'm now I can make up my mind for myself. And then if you want to take action, there's plenty of guidance on how to be effective in solutions and how to connect with other people around the world. And then we encourage you to, if you're being active and want to either join a group or start a group, go to the Solutions Hub. And we also encourage you to, if you're motivated by the film, buy the DVD, which you can do through the website, and share it with others. Do screenings in your own home on a big screen, or at a local theater, or buy them in bundles and give them to your friends, because that's the main way that you can support the actual viability of the Thrive movement. Because since we let the movie go for free, it's cut into our revenues hugely, and we're really glad that so many people are getting to see it all over the world. And if you want to both spread the word and help out the movement, buy some DVDs and spread them around.
Awesome.
Foster, just quickly, what is next after Thrive? Do you see yourselves making another video? Is that the right way to go about sending out a massive message like that globally, is through the media like that?
No, well, thanks. I appreciate the question, because we've been clarifying that a lot for ourselves as we look to see what our passions are and also what we think is most needed in the world. And we're not motivated to create another feature film like that. First of all, it just takes so long, and it's so expensive, and also that was the fundamental message, that along with the website. So we're going to continue to do media, but it's going to be much more spontaneous media.
Yeah.
We've got a domain called Thrive TV, and basically we're starting to invite key thinkers from around the world into strategic think tanks about how do we get from where we are to a free and thriving, healthy world. And that's a lot of work. And that takes some really open-mindedness and clever, thorough thinking to be strategic and effective in that. And we want to film those conversations and those think tanks. I'll be continuing to do a blog, and Kimberly will be joining me now and then. And we want to be conversing with people like yourselves, with artists and scientists and philosophers and so forth, who really are self-motivated and contributing important things to the movement. So we'll just use more spontaneous media, especially internet media, to create things and get them out to a rapidly expanding fan base all over the world. And the main things we're doing is 4 things. One is that we're working on facilitating getting the free energy into the world. And I can't say a lot about the details of that, but we've got a team that's gathering, that's vetting technologies and matching together investors with inventors and creating plans for getting the devices out into the world in a way that's safe and strategic and can be very successful and benefit everyone. The second one is I really want to see these solutions tools that I was talking about before. I want enough groups around the world to be skilled in using these tools that they can be teaching each other. And if I'm busy with something else or something happens to me, it doesn't matter, because other people know how to do these solution strategies. And then the next one is the liberty conversation. And we don't have time to go into that now, but that's really what I think I'm going to be spending most of the rest of my life on, is educating people. Because it took me years to really understand, and I hardly know any people who really have looked into the notion of individual liberty and sovereignty, and how can we actually organize voluntarily on a planet without authoritarian nation states and monopolies on money and force in governments that are threatening violence and taking your stuff. So that's an absolutely critical conversation. That's number 3. And then the final one, which Kimberly is mostly doing now, is looking to get Thrive into the mainstream. The mainstream kind of does their best to avoid Thrive, because first of all, we challenge the mainstream media. And secondly, we're talking about the very topics that the people who own the mainstream media don't want to get out there. These powers that be don't want people to understand about GMOs or pesticides or banking scams or wars of aggression in the name of democracy and regime change, and all these blatant lies that this whole war on terrorism, just all these illusions that they've been selling people. We want to get into the mainstream, but we have known from the start that we weren't going to be invited onto network TV just straight away because of what we were covering. But what we've seen is that if the movie becomes enough of a phenomenon, then they have to cover it because people are talking about it, and therefore they can have more viewers, and that's how they make their money and sell more advertising and so forth. And then they're also sort of in between. And we're a lot on alternative media all over the place, many different topics, many different countries. But what we think will happen next is we're approaching satellite TV stations and groups, TV shows like Jon Stewart and Bill Maher and in this country Free Speech TV and Link TV and so forth, who are actually engaging in meaningful conversations that have both the left and right represented, but are also looking to transcend that left-right conversation now, because even for them it's getting so frustrating and the world situation is getting so scary that some of those kind of in-between media, particularly if there are like comedians or artists involved, are willing to have conversations that that can explore some of this territory and kind of make some stepping stones into the absolute mainstream media. So that's what we're up to, and that's enough to keep us busy for a while.
That sounds like it, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you very, very much for your time, Foster. It's been an honour to speak with you about everything. We hope to stay in contact with you in the future and see you at the summit.
You're welcome. I really look forward to meeting you guys in person, and I talked with Matt before about I want to link you together with some of the other bands who are doing great music and are doing great conscious activism in the world, because I love the idea of that network growing all over the place. Yes. So thank you for the opportunity to do this. And when you have this recording ready, let us know how we can post it through our social media as well and get the word out to Australia and everyone else as well.
Will do, most definitely.
Thank you once again, Foster. I really appreciate that, mate.
All right, look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.